Hello everyone and welcome to I believe this is game 6 in a series now. ZZayohoPros versus FairyMvP, FairyMvP spawning as the blue Zerg over here at the 2 o'clock position. Meanwhile, ZZayohoPros spawning as the red Protoss. I know I'm going to trip up on that name, and I already know I'm not saying that name correctly, so I'll try to refer to them as Red Protoss and Blue Zerg here on Antigua Shipyard, and it looks like it will already be a Forge Fast expansion here on Antigua, as the Red Protoss player wants to establish a very strong economy. It appears that Antigua Shipyard, this version at the very least, is going to be forced cross spawns. Yes, forced cross spawns here. That probe will pass by this Zelnaga tower, activating it for just one moment and then continue all along his merry way back here. Now, FairyMvP has a number of options that he can try to go for. He can go for a hatchery first, or he can go for Zerglings first. The problem with going hatchery first is that you may end up getting cannon rushed by photon cannons, and that's very difficult to stop. Now, the problem with going spawning pool first, though, is if you try to go for a spawning pool first and then go for a hatchery, and your opponent knows that's going to be your strategy, he can still go for a Nexus first, but it looks like the Red Protoss player doesn't want to take any chances. He is going to counter with a Forge first now, and then perhaps get some photon cannons. It is quite a bit of walking distance between these two bases, so there should be enough time to warp in a photon cannon before Zerglings get to the other side of the map, especially if those Zerglings do not have metabolic boost. No gas in play as of yet, so no gas for quite a while. The probe knows that its days are pretty much numbered. 27-second build time, I believe, on Zerglings. 24-second build time on those Zerglings. The probe could try to warp in a pylon, but that wouldn't be that great of a choice, as the drone doesn't even necessarily have the right amount of minerals just quite yet. Drone backing off will grow up to be a hatchery, as this probe now simply slips back home. We are opening up with a Nexus and now getting in another pylon here. It is going to take double. That is going to take 2 pylons to complete this wall off. 1 photon cannon in this position, though, should be enough, plus a gateway to force the Zerglings to try to slip by right here. If you can get another gateway here, that would be a complete wall off, and no amount of Zerglings would really be able to make it up that ramp. The photon cannon, however, needing about another 7 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Is it going to be up? Yes, and the timing was perfect, calculating that timing down to what I believe to be 1 or 2 seconds, and is able to push back the Zerglings before they even ever made it up that ramp. A probe, now looking to do a bit more scouting, wants to make sure that there is a hatchery here at the natural. Gonna spot that and now make his way up the ramp once more to take a look. He will not see any gas as of yet, as the Queen quickly finishes it off with a nice slice and dice. Creep tumor now being established down here. Nice use by FairyMvP, knowing that he's not going to really have the necessary minerals to train up that many units and get those overlords as well. So the Queen down over here will be sitting on some energy until gets up to 25, would be able to spawn larva, and we'll see what the strategy will be from FairyMvP. FairyMvP currently behind in harvester count, but will be able to train up 6 in just a second, and then be able to get an additional 8 larva in 40 seconds time. Nexus now being chrono boosted. The red Protoss needs to get a strong economy, and it looks like he's going to be following this up with a Stargate. So a Stargate build here on Antigua Shipyard, and a Stargate is very effective against Zerg. Zerg generally has a difficult time against an early Voidway Stalker Zealot pressure due to just how beefy the Protoss units are, and also enabling sight up onto the high ground. Double Queens now coming in from FairyMvP. The Queen down over here wants to just build as large of a creep highway as possible, as drones are still being trained at this stage. 41 compared to 35, as we are now teching the tier 2. 2 overlords in position to make sure that they can get any real serious scouting out. FairyMvP, is he going to spot that Stargate? Yes, he does spot that Stargate now. A Void Ray already coming out to play, and a Void Ray will be able to finish off this Overlord rather quickly. Still no Nidus network though, as the Void Ray going to pop out here, shoot down this Overlord, as the Void Ray can attack and move at the same time. Seems to be the primary function of the Protoss Air Army, the ability to attack while moving. And there is that Void Ray. So the Void Ray already putting pressure, going to fully charge up and take down that Overlord in a matter of seconds. There it goes, as now the Void Ray continues on out. There are a couple Zealots. Zerglings now trying to make their way in. Are they going to be able to back off in time? No, not at all. An additional 75 resources lost, as we now go into Spine Crawlers. Infestation Pit and Aspire now currently being constructed. Zerglings still in abundance here. 48 drones, 45 probes, with more Zerglings still being added to this group. I don't believe that these Zealots and this Void Ray will win the game, but they're just looking to deal pressure. One Creep Tumor about to be completed. Oh, another one does complete just in time, as the Void Ray and the Zealots now push their way out. The Queen now pushing in to get some easy damage onto the Void Ray. The Zealots getting surrounded, and I believe that the Red Protoss simply miscalculated, not realizing that there would be 2 Queens on that front door for anti-air, also allowing for some transfusions. Zerglings now making their way across the map. This front door, 1 sentry is going to be all that really holds off all of these Zerglings, as the Zerglings are looking to destroy these destructible rocks. The Zergling could perhaps try to come in from the far side and start attacking there, as the Zerglings only deal 2 damage per attack, especially as the rocks do have a base 3 armor. Robotics Bay now being added, so Colossi in the near future, but Corruptors are already in the air. That will be important, as the Corruptors were meant to originally counter the Void Rays, but the Corruptors are going to counter the Colossi even more effectively, as FairyMvP now sitting with 2 Queens outside in what I call this valley, right outside his own base. 58 drones, 57 SCVs, more probes still being added by the Red Protoss, but the Red Protoss still does not have another base operational. The Overlord most likely will get taken down. Yep, there it goes. As even the pneumatized Carapace does not make an Overlord faster than a Stalker. Spine Crawlers being added. Oh, what is happening here? The Queens now trying to push their way in. An Observer is spotting this group. The Void Rays are backing off. A new Spore Crawler being thrown down as well, as Fairy wants to lay down enough Creep Tumors to make sure that this doesn't recede, and he still has map and early sight advantage. Zerglings still holding on to this third base, making sure that the Red Protoss doesn't try to establish it anytime soon. Level 2 weapons upgrade and extended thermal lance range about to be completed, as all the Red Protoss player can really do is try to clean up these Creep Tumors and use that, using the map advantage by denying creep to his advantage. Corruptors are once again on the move. We are getting Colossi. 1 Colossus is currently up. Extended thermal lance range now being researched. It's going to be a little bit of time, as the Void Ray now once again flies into a group of Zerglings, and the Zerglings decide to back off. FairyMvP still sitting on 4 Infestors now. That will help him out, as we now see the Red Protoss establishing up his third base. That will be quite some time before it is ready. 56 drones, 64 probes, and the worker advantage finally goes in favor of Protoss, and if he's able to keep this game long, he may actually come out ahead. More gateways once again being rebuilt. A Zergling trying to slip by, going to fall very quickly to the Zealots and the Colossi there, as Corruptors are finally being added to this group. The Red Protoss still, I believe, with the smaller army right now. Yes, with the smaller army, but with a slight Harvester advantage, and will be able to warp in even more units off of those warp gates. Zerglings and Roaches are upgraded 1-1 and 1-0 respectively. The Infestors really want to get some fungal growth down and perhaps allow for a very, very strong surround. We'll see how well the red Protoss player is able to split up his units. By splitting up those units, it's going to force more micro and more fungal growth to actually be cast as the game now finally continues. Zerglings now running in over here. Are we going to have an engagement? It looks as though we are. There's the Guardian Shield, Roaches, and Infestors. Fungal growth now being used. Stalkers just getting pushed up into a really, really bad position. Another round of fungal growth. Once again, hitting all of those Stalkers there. And the Roaches going for a trade alongside a lot of Stalkers. And the Roaches may come... No, they're not going to come out ahead. But all the Colossi have been destroyed as the Stalkers now give chase to those Corruptors. Now, taking a look at the losses, I would say that the losses are about even, 5,400 versus 52. Both sides not liking that engagement, as we now see the Stalkers with 2-0 upgrades. Finally starting on that third upgrade. Infestors, here comes the fungal growth. There's the Zerglings. No Colossi in this group. This is looking really bad as the fungal growth constantly being recast onto those Stalkers there. Another fungal growth could be coming in. Where is that fungal growth? There it is. The Zealots now pretty much stuck. And ZZayohoPros losing a lot of units because of fungal growth. Very, very effective use as another fungal growth does once again be recast. The Stalker down to 8 hit points as the Zerglings now back off again. This Infestor looking to perhaps get some easy damage. Gonna run straight into here. That's a really bad waste of 350 resources. Or 300, or is it 200 resources? 200 resources. As Corruptors are still jumping up to the skies. FairyMvP with still a slight advantage, about 20 Harvester advantage, 23 Harvester advantage, if you care about numbers like that. And now we see what the red Protoss still trying to hold on to his economic lead, but will it translate into anything is the serious question. Total losses slightly higher for the red Protoss now, as we see a slightly more expensive army coming in from FairyMvP. And with this many Infestors and Zerglings out, I believe an attack will be coming in momentarily. Infestors and Zerglings once again trying to push out. No, deciding to back off once more. Didn't like what they saw. Back over here, these warp gates acting as a very fine wall to make sure that no units are going to slip by unless they take a couple rounds of cannon fire. Zerglings and Infestors are going to move out here. Zerglings now trying to hug on the far side. Are we going to get perhaps a surround? The Colossi do have very, very strong force fields, and here's the engagement. There's some infested Terrans as well. Roach is now being added, and that is a lot of infested Terrans to go after, as those infested Terrans are popping out of the woodwork to fight and deal a lot of damage. The Corruptors going after the Colossi, but it looks like the red Protoss will be able to fight back all of these units here after a very nicely timed blink. And that nicely timed blink allowing the pros to just chase after those units much more effectively, as we now see a pretty even terms of losses. Red Protoss finally taking the advantage now. And the Colossi are upgraded 3-1 against 0-2 upgrades for the Infestors and Roaches, as we are now going to make their way inside the space. Stalkers are battling it through. Colossi really want to finish this off. Corruptors now joining in on the fight. The Stalkers need to finish off those Corruptors if they really want to do anything at all. The Corruptors finally just suiciding their way in, but a lot of Colossi have been destroyed already. One Colossus down. A second Colossus now getting taken down as the Infestors... as the Corruptors now getting sniped down by those Stalkers, and I believe this will be the beginning of the end, as Pros does have a very strong economic advantage at this stage, now at 64 compared to 53. Zerglings look to come in. Only one Colossus in this group. The Colossus now very, very far behind the rest of all of those Stalkers. The Corruptors just pushing forward a little bit too far out. And now the red Zerg looking to finish, or sorry, the red Protoss looking to finish things up here. The Colossus did take a lot of damage, down to 52 hit points. And now more Zerglings are still being added once more, as we haven't really seen anything come out of that Stargate. Stalkers now ready to re-engage. 3-1 upgrades. Colossi in the backfield, looking to just slice through all of those Zerglings, able to take many of them down as the Zerglings battle it out with those Stalkers here. The Stalkers finally deciding to blink away and join in with the rest of the party, but I think it may be too little too late, especially as one Colossus now up to, or down to 16 hit points, and there is the GG. So FairyMvP losing to the red Protoss here on Antigua Shipyard.